now. Hi, everyone. Oh, I'm sorry. My turn. Welcome to the Reloading Podcast here in the Firearms Radio Network. I want to take time to thank everybody who tunes into this show weekly, monthly, year.
Poor them.
I don't know. And thank whoever created this lovely device. It's awesome. So,
you ever got your nipple stuck in there, Mike?
Nope.
Jason, were you beat as a child? I mean, what the hell?
Oh, this is a podcast. It's live and we're subjecting the folks on YouTube to this crap.
Oh, good grief.
You brought us together, Michael. It's all your responsibility and your fault.
Wait a minute. You guys thought I was responsible? What the hell? Told you that lie.
We are your monkeys. This is your circus.
Son of a... Damn it, hook 'em. Gotta blame somebody. Might as well be the editor.
Yep. So,
anyway, back to the normal traipsing along. I want to take time to thank Sean and everybody over at the Firearms Radio Network for giving us a place to hang every week. I want to thank Jake and Ryan over at Patriot Patch Company for being bandwidth sponsor. So, and I want to thank the Patreons who helped fund this entire amount of shenanigans and everything else. So I was looking at an iMac. That's what I've been using to record for the last, 6 weeks or so. But decided it wasn't worth it. It was actually a really good price, but I couldn't justify $900 for a computer that was going to basically sit in the garage. I did get a newer Windows PC that doesn't have a cooling fan problem. And so tonight's the first night on that, but everything seems to be going very well. So that's good. The other nice thing is the camera app for the GoPro actually works a little better with Windows than it does with Apple. So hopefully by next week I'll have the GoPro up and running. So that's a good thing. But as far as doing stuff, not really much.
Yeah, you did. You bought it. You had upgraded your computer. You're working a GoPro into the recording system. That's quite a bit of material for Guns and Reloading for the podcast.
Yeah.
Podcast improvement.
Yep. Unfortunately, I was busy last week, so I couldn't get Hookem the show to edit until Sunday morning. So he got that back to me late Sunday night. And then I unfortunately haven't got a chance to get it posted, so that'll happen tonight. So one thing, and I didn't realize it until I was sitting there this morning thinking in the thinking room while on the clock, because frankly, that's what you should do. And I realized that, first off, the podcast hasn't posted, so the only people that would have gotten into the drawing so far would have been the live listeners in the first place. So originally we had mentioned on the podcast we were going to do a drawing for some Dillon parts last Friday. Well, I didn't have internet Friday, so that didn't happen. Get internet back up, I guess Sunday sometime. Something wrong with something or other, and Charter finally figured out and got it fixed. Charter's almost as bad as Comcast, but not quite. So after all that mess, then I realized this morning that we hadn't really given a chance for everybody else to get into the drawing. So we'll actually do the drawing on Friday the 14th at 6 p.m. Central Time. It's at 7 Eastern, 5 Pacific, 4 on the West Coast. And I will do that live on the Reloading Podcast Facebook page, not the group. So We're doing some drawings from Dylan parts that Travis was lucky enough to get from Entirely Crimson. So some pretty cool stuff. And in case you're wondering why I'm holding this, it's a bug zapper. I'm out in the garage. And due to the massive amounts of rain that we've gotten over the last 3 weeks, the mosquito population has grown to epic proportions. In fact, anything under 25 pounds is not safe because they've formed war parties and they're now starting to carry stuff off. That's how bad it's gotten. So instead of slapping them or trying to slap them, I really slap at them. So you may hear an occasional zzz, but at least you know what it is. And you know there's another bloodsucker that died. We can all take pleasure in that. All right. So enough rambling. What's everybody been doing?
I'll make mine short, sweet, and simple. More lugging and tugging.
So you got enough lead in that? A listener asked if you've got enough lead in the shed to hold it in place now.
I'll tell you what. I'll bet you there's every bit of 2,000 pounds of lead in that shed.
Well, it's got a fighting chance then.
You bet. Of course, too, 100, 150 mile an hour winds. Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't think we'll see it that bad this far inland.
Yeah, you're what, 3 hours in?
Exactly.
Yeah, so you'll get something, but you'll probably get more rain than anything.
Yeah, I'm hoping.
Rain
Doesn't scare me. The wind does.
I don't know.
I'm on a hilltop. I'm on a hilltop.
Oh, okay. Eeny, meeny, miny, Mo. And that would be Phil. Phil, what you been doing?
I have done precisely squat the last week. Other than carry.
Are your legs tired?
Are my legs tired from carrying?
No, I'm doing squat.
Oh, cute. Now, as I told y'all, my workplace had to send me out of town last week due to the potential tropical storm that turned out not to happen. So I was gone from Tuesday through Sunday. And I did exactly nothing other than carry firearms and review my home defense plan with my wife because she was here in my absence. Other than that, I haven't even touched my reloading gear in a week. But I'm still beating Jim's record.
Hookham says you're a slacker.
Hookham would know. He is one. Takes one to know one.
Ooh.
Tough crowd tonight. Jason, what you been up to?
Yes, sir. I got a new something. Last week I was prepared and I actually had a photo queued up on my computer I was going to share. But Jim felt the need to talk and kind of got carried away, and then I forgot to screen share it, and now I can't find it. So I'm going to do this. So can you see that?
Breakaway coaster. Stay focused. Quick, easy focus ring adjuster. Fits any scope. It's a toy for your scope.
Yeah.
It's a quick adjust device. Must be some sort of a toggle that you wrap around.
It's darn near a zip tie, Jim, except for it's threaded. And so I put that on my the ring on my scope to adjust the power because the ring's fairly stiff, and I like it. It helps a lot. The only thing I don't know is I only took it out shooting once, but I literally knocked it off the ring. So I had to loosen it back up and put it back on. I don't know if I'm afraid to tighten it too much because it's plastic. And we know how people with good grips and plastic things go. But I'll play with it some more. But I think it was like $12 or something. Cheap enough to play with and experiment with. If it works, it's a good idea.
If not, it's a novelty, right?
Exactly. Other than that, I've done nada. How about Travis?
Okay, so what I've done was I shot a 3-gun competition on Saturday, going through a couple 5-gallon buckets of brass, and ordered a new scope.
What did you order?
I ordered the new Vortex Razor HD Gen 2 1-6.
Very nice. What are you putting it on with only a 1-6 though?
It's what right now I shoot a 1-4 in 3-gun.
See, that makes
And
sense.
I think my eyes are just getting kind of bad. So I talked to the Vortex guy, and I was gonna get like a 1-8. And after talking to him, the glass seems like it'd be so good on that razor that I will kind of trick my eyes into thinking I got more magnification than I do. So that's what I went with.
Uh-oh. Some schmuck might silence their phone. Wonder who that putz is. Could it be the guy that's got the phone in his hand? Maybe. Oops. Sorry about that.
Do you mean the only guy in the room with a ball cap on?
Maybe. Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Could be. I don't know. Well, see, I figured 3/5 of the time our listeners are blinded. So that way I should at least go with ball cap so I can make sure that I don't, even though I don't have that massive forehead that some of the co-hosts do. I'm not going to mention any names.
Get it right, Mike. It's at least a 5.5 head.
So,
What? Oh, Phil said he didn't do anything because he was out working.
yeah. So, in the previous week, did you do anything, Phil?
Um,
Can you remember that far back?
no.
Okay.
Just
Never mind.
process more brass, what I always do.
Okay.
Tumbling, trimming, just,
Wet tumbling or dry tumbling?
I actually do both, and I might be the only weirdo in the room that does do both. But what I do is I take my range brass and dry tumble it just to knock all the junk off of it, and then I run it through a full-length sizing die, and then do all my brass prep minus the trimming, then wet tumble it, then pull it out, trim it, and then load it. So I use both.
Speaking of wet tumbling, I noticed something today in either the podcast group or the reloading room, one of the two, where somebody has taken the anvils out of their fired primers and they're using those anvils just like the stainless steel tumbling pins that using for wet tumbling. And it fits right in, it drops right into the primer pocket, because the anvil, of course, is a good deal smaller, and it should clean the primer pockets up very nicely, I would think. And it's free, kind of, just like reloading saves money.
Right.
Blasphemer.
Well, how many primers would it take to make enough for tumbling media? How many fired primers?
Depends on the cartridge.
Well, suffice it to say, it would take lots. Of course, too, I've got a 5-gallon bucket full of fired primers. We probably all do.
Well, I'm thinking it would be quite the collection.
Hey, Phil, did your dad get his trimmer for his Dylan in yet?
Yes, he has, and it is set up, and I'm jealous.
So you haven't used it?
Oh, no, I have. I had to go over and help him set everything up and get everything running, but I'm jelly. I'm very jelly. Between the trimmer and I'm trying to think what it is. He's got some kind of an RCBS die that
Ooh, don't do
is
that.
supposed to supposed to lube the cases, which
Oh,
I
an
never
oiler?
heard. Yeah, I'd never heard of one before he popped up with that. But that and a universal decapper, and then he's got to swage it, down at the bottom of the machine. And
He's all set up now.
Oh yeah, that's naughty.
He's got the fever.
Yeah. Yeah, I helped him set it up. Came back a week later, and he showed me like just buckets of trim brass just lying all over the garage. And I was like, "Jesus Christ, you're gonna!" I told him, I'm gonna put you to work, make some money on you.
I just remembered something I did do last weekend for Guns and Reloading. I actually went to tour a ammunition manufacturing facility. Unfortunately, I arrived about 2.5 hours after they closed for the weekend. Dumbass me, I should have called ahead.
Phone first.
Mm-hmm. I've got a rather interesting introduction to the owner of the facility.
You're peeing in his yard again.
Not quite. Anyway, I'll try it again sometime soon, but probably after this weekend because we're not too sure what the hurricane is going to tell us to do.
Right.
Yep. I thought of something else I did this week. So when I've been shooting rifle lately, about an hour into shooting, I start seeing a double reticle. And I was thinking there was something about the way I'm resting on my rifle or something, and I kept playing with adjustments and whatever, and it wouldn't happen. But it was always perfect right when I started, and about an hour later, roughly, I would see the double reticle. So I went to the eye doctor. I actually took a couple hours off during work and went to the eye doctor, and I got astigmatism. So 2015 in my left eye, he said, if you really want to be a good shooter, shoot with your left eye. But I'm kind of left-handed.
Left hand, right eye dominant.
Well, I'm right-handed, like extremely. Mike doesn't want me to say retarded, but I couldn't think of anything else to say. I'm really bad with my left hand.
Well, Jason, if this means you can't shoot anymore, I will give all of your rifles a good home. Promise.
So I went and bought glasses, Phil, so that wouldn't be a problem. Get them Friday.
You didn't give him a chance, Phil. You didn't give him a chance. He was ready for you.
I mean, all I'm saying is, I would never poke fun at a person for their advanced age, but me being, let's call it, less seasoned and a little younger, more spry, I've got a lot more good shooting years ahead of me than you do. So I'm offering.
I really don't think you do, Phil, because you got a big mouth and some old man's going to whoop you one day. It might be your papa.
Good one, Jason. Good one.
He hasn't done me in yet. I must be growing on him.
Yep. But yeah, my eye doctor, he asked me what was going on, so I told him I'm a rifle shooter and told him what was going on. And he asked me about rifle shooting. He was real curious about it and thought that the glasses would really fix me up.
You got to take your dog to the range, Jason. Think about it. Yeah. Seriously, that's a good one to take to the range.
Right.
Invite him. I'm serious.
Well, I got Kaiser, so every time I go, it's to the eye doctor. It's a different guy.
Oh.
Usually I get the text. This time I got an actual doctor. He was really good. And then I went to the Wally Mart to get order the glasses, and that guy was talkative. He was asking me what was going on, why I went to the eye doctor and everything. So I was telling him about shooting. He's a shooter, not quite into it like I am, but He shoots a little. He was interesting to talk to. Not quite the anti-gun state that the interweb makes it to be, at least not in my area.
Not among the working folks that has good sense.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about Feinstein and Pelosi.
Yeah, see, he's in the sane part of the state.
I'm not going there.
Except for just south of me is the state capital, and we know who lives there and
Yeah.
is an idiot.
Idiots are us. How can I help you? So, Mr. Jim.
Yes, sir.
What is the cartridge?
The cartridge of the week? Is that what you want to know, Mr. Iselin?
You want
Iceman? Mikey?
you want a robot.
Sorry. Going to have to blame that one on Florence.
Bastards.
All right, let me clear my throat.
Let me clear my throat. There you go.
You bet. You bet. Anyway, the Cartridge Corner. It's that time of the week again, guys. And since I've been pretty much, what's the word? Voluntold? Yeah, that's the word. Voluntold to get shanghaied into this, I get to pick the cartridge. And this week, I picked a personal favorite of two podcasters on this show. And that is the 357 Smith & Wesson Magnum. Did I say 357 S&W Magnum? Or did I say 357 Smith & Wesson Magnum? That is correct. It was created by Smith & Wesson. Oh, that's not what my notes say. It was created by Elmer Keith, Philip B. Sharp, and D.B. as in Daniel, D.B. Wesson of firearms manufacturers, Smith & Wesson and Winchester. The 357 Magnum, 9mm by 33M rimmed, is a revolver cartridge with 357 thousandths diameter bullet, 9.07 millimeter. It is based on the Smith & Wesson's earlier 38 Special cartridge. 357 Magnum was introduced in 1934 and has become widespread. The cartridge started the Magnum era of handgun ammunition. The 357 Magnum cartridge is very notable for its highly effective terminal ballistics when used for hunting or self-defense. That 125 grain jacketed hollow point factory load is known to be like lightning. It is a stopper. A few specs, if you don't mind. As I said, the case is rimmed. The bullet diameter is .357, and if you're shooting cast bullets, .358, .359. The neck diameter, that would be the outside of the case, and the base diameter are both 379. Rim diameter, .440. If you want to read more of the specs, it does take a small pistol primer. If you prefer, you can use Magnum on that. If you want to read the specs, it'll be in the show notes that Michael put up. Anyway, the reason why I cast for that particular cartridge, and that was the first caliber that I actually cast for. And I cast the Lee 160 grain Tumbleweed micro rib bullet for that cartridge, and I do like my liquid ALOX. Anyway, the point being that is my personal favorite for shooting because I can shoot so much of it. I actually have worn out a Ruger Security 6. I keep telling my friend, let me send it back to Ruger for you, and he says, no, I like it the way it is. You should see the slop that is in that cylinder. Every time I go to handle that gun, I shot it so much. I was casting bullets. I might cast 20 pounds of bullets, and I go shoot them. Cast another 20, 30 pounds, go shoot them. I don't even have a clue as to how many rounds I put through that poor gun. And they were all pretty stiff loads, full house loads, shall we say. And that was also the cartridge that I learned to reload first. That's the one you've heard me tell the story about, where my old buddy Tom introduced me to reloading with WW296, and he made me shoot 6 rounds of it at late sunset, early dusk, right about the time it wasn't quite dark where I could see what I was shooting at, and a big old impressive fireball come out of the end of that barrel. And he laughed when he looked at me, or I looked at him, and he says, "Now you want to keep reloading, or you want to learn to reload?" I said, "I'd like to learn to reload, Tom, if you don't mind." And that was that was back about 1978. 78, 79. And I have my notes. They're faded and dusty and faded and dingy, but I have notes that go clear back to 1980. Reloading notes, I should say. But anyway, the link will be in the show notes as far as that goes for the article. But I pretty much have copied and pasted everything out of the Wikipedia. It's not a Bible. Wikipedia isn't a Bible, but it's there. I've got rather extensive experience with this cartridge, and I happen to know that load that I named, the 125 grain jacket hollow point, used to be a lawman ammunition, and they like it. You know, the idea is you put a slug in somebody, you want them to stop. You want them to stop doing whatever they're doing right now. And let me go over to the reloading podcast thing. Let's see here. Does anybody have any questions for me about the cartridge of the week?
I do, actually.
Well, by all means, Phil, that's a good fill-in.
And this would apply for anybody out there that's reloading 357, but what's y'all's preference? Do you kind of veer more towards like 125 grain bullets? Do you like the heavier stuff? Have a load you care to share?
I have a load. Actually, I like Jason. Good, you unmuted your microphone. Tell me about them 200 grain truncated cone bullets I sent you a long time ago. What'd you ever do with them, buddy?
Well, it just so happens that I was out in the barn recently looking for something, and I saw the bag of those bullets.
In other words, you haven't done anything. You haven't done anything with them, you bum.
But I found them.
Yeah, Phil, absolutely right. The base, the shank on that 200 grain truncated cone bullet, just the shank of it is longer than a 158 grain semi wad cutter nose to tail.
That sounds like more fun than the law should allow.
It is a ball. Now, just visualize shooting that at about 1,100 feet per second.
I need that in my life.
Oh, yeah. Well, now, don't get me wrong. You know, it's like shooting at a rainbow, you know, bing, pow, all that sort of thing. But it is. Ear splitting loud and slammer.
Yeah, at this point, I've only loaded 125 and 158 grain bullets in mine. And I will say that based on my own personal experience, a 125 at high velocity, it's got some snap to it. But I think 357 really starts coming to his own with about 158 grain and up.
That is considered to be about the perfect bullet weight for the cartridge. But I like that heavy bullet. And maybe Jason, if you ever get off his duff, maybe Jason will take and start finding out the joys of shooting those bullets. I know there's a few people that have had those, and they practically begged me for more. Well, matter of fact, you know one of them. You know one of them. He sometimes comes on YouTube. He's one of our admins we call Swampy. We won't say his name. But anyway, he lives a tad north of you.
Tad north of me or tad north of Jason?
No, you.
You. A skosh.
I'm drawing.
All right. Well, we don't need to nail him down too much. If you need me, I'll send Jason. Type it in our chat. His name, please.
Mhm.
Anyway, my personal preference, I like to shoot that 200 grain bullet that I cast. But again, what Phil's talking about, I think, is he likes to shoot the jacket of bullets. He has yet to do any real work with cast bullets.
Actually plated, but the same difference.
Yeah. No, not really. Plated is a good bit softer than you think, Phil, because that coating on copper coating on there is only about thousandths and a half thick. Your rifling can cut through that jacket or that plating pretty well. So you don't want to take and drive that too hard. You could drive it a tad faster than cast. But you're right. I agree with you. The heavier bullet, the 158 grain, that's considered to be the absolute perfect weight for it. That, I believe, I haven't done my research quite thoroughly enough, but I believe that's the round that was introduced, or the bullet weight that was introduced by Smith & Wesson was 158 grain. I could be wrong.
It sounds familiar, though.
Well, yeah, that's a standard load for self-defense or anything like that. I mean, you catch 158 grains of lead going at 1,400 feet per second. It's going to leave a distinct impression.
It's going to make you kind of reanalyze your life decisions.
You'll probably stop analyzing them altogether.
That's fine, too.
Anyway, it's very much one of my favorite cartridges. Jason said it a long time ago. We like to shoot the gun. We like to shoot the cartridge. Why? Because we don't lose our brass. I love to go into the woods and just plink. I'll shoot at a rock or shoot at a stump or something like that. Or find some litter and I shoot it up or whatever. And I just like plinking in the woods. You know, I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't shoot it into trees. I don't try to shoot birds or animals or anything like that. I just like plinking in the woods. I'll tell you a favorite target of mine, and this is one that I'm probably going to catch some hell for. But what I like to do is I like to get up over top of a pond or a lake, up on the bank of it, up high, not down low where the bullets can ricochet. But what I like to do is get up high, throw a stick in the water, and see how many times I can break that stick with my bullet. That's a small target, guys. And it could be 15 feet away. It could be 25 yards away. But to hit it and break it, that's the objective. And you break it once, you got two pieces. Now you got two targets. Break each target, now you got four targets. And so on and so forth. It's one of my favorite things to do when I'm in the woods. But again, this is from up high, not down low, where you can actually cause a glancing bullet to go into the bank on the other side. You got to be responsible with where they go. Anyway, let's see if there's any questions on. No, I don't see anything. No, I guess these guys are talking about glasses.
Yeah, I should have asked the listeners about glasses a long time ago. They got lots of good info.
Mike Zello says he likes the 125 grain XTP with H110. H110 and 296 is about the same powder, as I understand. And it'll give you a little bit of a fireball at the end of the day. You ever use anything like that, Jason?
I use H110.
Mm,
What was the bullet weight? 125? No. I
yeah.
think I'm usually shooting like a 150.
That's a good bullet weight, too. Behave, Travis. He's over here. He's silently heckling me in the podcast chat.
Yeah, he's being a real jerk.
I would never do that.
No, never.
Oh.
Well, just for that, I think I'm going to bring my comments about the cartridge of the week to a close, and let Mike take over with the main topics. We got several questions. I'm not sure. One, Mike, just to make a note, the first one, it's left over from a previous show. If you wanted to take and get into that while we're early in the show, now would be a good time. Otherwise, just jump on down to number 2.
Actually, what I was looking for is the one from last week that we postponed because Phil wasn't here.
Oh, I hope I didn't overwrite that.
So that one I can go find.
Oh, that's right. It's
Anyway,
well, I got a question for you while you're looking, Mike, or for Phil while you're looking.
yep.
Hey, Phil,
Hey,
from a
Joe.
from a prepper's point of view, how much ammo is enough ammo?
For what? I mean, not making a complete joke, but I mean, like I've explained from my point of view, and I am the self-admitted prepper of the group. I always relate everything back to like a set of requirements. You know what I'm saying? That's my background coming from what I used to do. What I've done for a living is responding to requests for proposals. So I always look at what are the requirements, and I work backwards from there to what materials or what I should have in place to meet those requirements. So I've often said, like, bare minimum home defense, 200 rounds for a handgun. And I'm talking about that's absolute entry level as far as I'm concerned. I think more appropriate, or at least what I try to keep on hand, is I try to keep about a year's supply of ammunition at my typical expenditure monthly. You know, for training and everything else, I keep a year's supply of ammunition on hand so that if at any moment in time I couldn't restock my components, I've got a year worth of ammo at my current expenditure. And that's kind of what I recommend everybody keep on hand is if your normal thing is to go out to the range every month and pump 50 rounds into a target, you should have 600 rounds of ammunition. And no less, in my personal opinion.
Per gun? Per caliber? No, I own two guns, same caliber. So are we talking per gun or per caliber?
Well, you also have to understand that I personally separate out, quote, defensive firearms from just the fun guns. Because, like, to me, I don't stock a ton of 45 ACP anymore. I have a fair bit, but my 1911 is not a defensive firearm in my eyes. I have a tremendous amount of 9mm on hand because 9mm is my concealed carry caliber. It's my wife's caliber. It's my bedside guns caliber. So if I have like 2,000 rounds of 9mm, that feeds a lot of guns. The 45 is just not a defensive firearm to me. So I guess my way of looking at it is that if you have two defensive firearms and they're both whatever caliber, double the ammunition, because you want enough ammo to keep both those guns fed for a period of time. And I'll just relate this because this is like an old military story I picked up from someplace, but actually it's from Clint Smith from Thunder Ranch. But he tells a story about how he was young, he was still enlisted, and there was a more senior veteran than him riding in a helicopter with him, and the guy, he had his pack and he had a bucket full of AR magazines. And he was sitting there watching his watch, and every minute he would take a magazine out of the bucket and stick it in his pack. And after this went on for a while, Clint Smith asked him, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Every minute it takes us to get out to the landing zone, it's going to take a minute for this helicopter to get back out there to pick us up. And I expect to go through a mag a minute." So that's the story I always relate to people who ask me, like, how much ammo should I have on hand? How much ammo do you think you can shoot if you have to defend your family?
Well, you're talking a combat situation as opposed to a home intrusion, invasion.
But I've also seen a fairly localized societal collapse in Hurricane Katrina.
Oh yeah.
And all I'm gonna say, without getting completely tinfoil hat on people, is there are situations that do occur occasionally that will reduce a metropolitan area to a combat zone.
Yep.
And all I can say is, if you opt not to get out of the way of that storm, and if you opt not to leave that metro area, you better be prepared to defend your family. And for me, that means I'm going to act like I'm going back to Baghdad.
Yep. I'm prepared.
So
y'all know that.
How much ammo is enough? How much do you think you can shoot in a week? That's a good place to start.
Mm-hmm. Here's kind of a good just a baseline for a guy storing stuff. get a bunch of 30 caliber ammo cans, and each paycheck you buy a box or two, and you just start working on filling up those ammo cans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's factory ammo the guys are talking about too, by the way. Now, Travis, you talking about like Winchester white box with a full metal jacket? Or are you talking about personal defense ammo, or a mixture thereof?
Honestly, I'd do a mixture of whatever you can afford. If you can only afford a box or two, on your payday to get some white box, just buy what you can. Put the good stuff away in another ammo can.
My personal preference is for what I call a combat load of true defensive ammo. Like for my bedside gun, I've got 3 21-round magazines for it. They're all loaded with federal HSTs. But the bulk ammo that's in the ammo cans, that's just stuff I loaded. Because my way of looking at it is if I'm ever in a true situation that requires more than 3 21-round magazines of ammunition, I no longer care if it's federal HSTs or if it's whatever Plinkin ammo I loaded up. It will suffice.
Right.
That being said, I am a wholehearted believer in your primary defensive ammunition ought to be, the best plutonium laced, straight from Mars. Buy good, reliable defensive ammunition. If you don't know what defensive ammunition is, go to your local police department and ask them what they issue.
Yep.
Around here, that's federal HST. And I have never met a deputy or an officer who turns their nose up at federal HST among the other defensive calibers that are out there.
Quote, if it's good enough for the cops, it's good enough for me, unquote.
Yep. But that's my point of view. Everyone can afford enough to load a basic loadout of true high quality defensive ammunition. Beyond that, if you just need to fill up a couple ammo cans of bulk Plinkin ammo, so be it. Because I understand, it premium ammunition costs a fair bit. And if you can buy 3 times as much Plinkin ammo for the same cost, load those ammo cans with bulk ammo.
As a follow-on to this question that we'd saved for you, Phil, it's just interesting because if you take the time to look at the show notes from last week, there's a couple articles about personal experience of guys, infantrymen, whatever. Standard load was 6 30-round magazines in your load-bearing equipment. For 180 rounds, really 168, you leave one round out of each magazine, or even 2 for that way for better functioning. But it's just interesting if you want to go look at it, that these guys they're going into the field with no less than 100 and not 180, 100. Shit, I did it again. My tang is all tungle, guys. Sorry. No less than 6 magazines. Absolutely no less.
Yeah, and I will just say that personally, for a home defense setup, I carry 5 or 4 spares and 1 in the rifle. I don't really feel undergunned with that, me personally. All I'm going to tell a person is, whatever your local police response time is, think about a mag a minute. And I will gleefully admit what I'm describing is like the holy Hail Mary of the worst situations you can imagine if you're going to burn down a mag a minute to be between someone trying to hurt your family and your family. But preppers don't prep for everyday occurrences. Preppers prep for things to go historically wrong. That's what we do. And my way of looking at it is, if you prepare for that bad of a situation, a bump in the night is not going to really throw you off your game.
Okay. Well, that was a question. Anyway. So over to you, Mike.
All right. Oh, that was the question I was wondering about. So we got that answered. So next up, Chris posted, thanks again to all of you guys that continue to put forth the time and effort to make this podcast as great as it is. Definitely makes my commute time a whole lot easier to bear each day. I haven't gotten caught up on all your episodes yet, so I apologize if you already covered this. I was hoping you'd be able to put an episode to covering reloading for precision rifle on progressive presses. Currently looking into trying to do so with a Dillon 650 or 1050 that I have not yet purchased. It would be awesome to get some additional information and insight into the entire setup and process for this, including the dies being used, bushing versus expander, Mendrel, or both. Other specialty dies, two heads, miscellaneous or specialty tools, etc., being used or recommended for use to efficiently and more quickly than a single stage press, reload, match grade precision rifle ammo on a progressive press, specifically one of the Dillon presses, but would be interested in hearing pros or cons of other options as well. Okay. So, can it be done? Yes. Why? I'm not sure. If you want an excuse to buy a progressive, then, buy a progressive. The biggest issue you run into with any sort of progressive press, whether it's a fancy Dillon 650 or 1050, or even the 550 here, or the Hornady Lock and Load AP, or the Loadmasters, or the various RCBS ones, is shell plate flex. It has 4 to 5 holes in it. It's not going to be very solid, not compared to a single stage ram, where you have the shell holder that's almost encapsulating the brass. So, and even more so, if you go with Redding's custom shell holders, you can get even more specific and reduce the slop even more than you would just by going to a regular single stage. So I don't know. I guess it depends on your definition of precision. I guess that's kind of the bottom line. Is what does Chris want per precision? To me, match grade precision rifle ammo, we're talking sub MOA 600 plus yards. So, excuse me. I mean, you can do it. You can buy better dies. You can go slower. You can weigh your powder charge on a scale and then hand dump it in. And you could, successfully do it. Is it really that practical? I don't know. I've never tried.
It's a tall order, Mike. I will say that. And I've loaded some precision ammo, not very much, a couple hundred rounds, but I've also loaded a lot of bulk ammo. And, they're not the same thing. It's apples and oranges.
Mm-hmm.
And I totally agree with where you're going on that. It can be done, but I also like a good day at the range with a precision rifle. You might burn 100 rounds. I've gone to the range and I took my son one time and we burned up 2,000 rounds out of one gun in one day. That was bulk ammo.
Mm-hmm.
We're shooting at posters of Jane Fonda. We're shooting at tin cans. We're shooting at old cars that were on the junkyard line, stuff like that. And we're just tearing the hell out of the place. Yes, we had to clean it up. We had a lot of fun while we were making a mess. And needless to say, the poster got riddled. But anyway, so it's not the same thing. Like Mike said, you're shooting 600 plus yards. You're not going to need a whole lot of ammunition. Oh, Jane who? That would be, what was his name? The guy that owns the... Not God forbid.
Hanoi Jane.
No, not that. Her husband's name.
No idea.
Yeah, Ted Turner.
Ted Turner. The idiot Ted Turner's wife.
Ex-wife.
Ex-wife?
He finally got smart and divorced her.
Oh, he divorced her? Good for him.
So Hanoi Jane would be the person that Jim would be referencing to. In case you were wondering, just Google Hanoi Jane and you'll find out all you need to know.
And this is not a political show, so we'll drop it right there.
Exactly.
Of course, you drop it before you let me get involved.
Well, yeah, because you'll run it on for 30 minutes.
Speaking of political, though,
Just 20.
there is one important thing I think we all need to do today. Seeing as how
Oh,
the-
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Today is 9/11.
Yeah. And we didn't record last year on 9/11, but we mentioned it. But since we are recording this year on 9/11, for those of you who are around the world or those who are young, you may not really understand what 9/11 is about. Growing up, I heard about Pearl Harbor. Okay. I heard about December 7th, 1941. I never sat down and talked to anybody who was alive that day to really kind of get the impression. I have talked to quite a few people about November 22nd, 1963. That's another banner day, or unfortunately banner day in U.S. history. And I always thought, are you serious? You don't remember exactly what you were doing? That's silly. Guess what? I remember what I was doing that morning 17 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, same here.
And I remember social media really wasn't a thing. And I remember getting a phone call from my wife because I was working second shift at the time. And so I was home and I stayed up late like I usually did. So I was sleeping. And it was 7-something when the first plane hit. I think 7:46 my time would have been. And so I got a call a couple minutes after from my wife and turned TV on. And we're just starting to get caught up when the second plane hit. And it was at that point in time that I knew, hey, that it wasn't an accident. And at that point in time, they didn't know anything about, there wasn't anything going on with Flight 93. That wasn't even a blip. And there wasn't anything to be heard about the one that crashed into the Pentagon. And so the news wasn't really sure what happened at first. They thought it was an accident. And it wouldn't be the first time that a plane crashed into a skyscraper in New York City. Back in the 30s, a B-17 crashed into the Empire State Building. So there was precedent. And back when the World Trade Center went up, there was almost a collision. So, but I remember watching and realizing that the world wasn't ever going to be the same. And realizing that it was terrorists as soon as that second plane hit. Didn't know who they were. Didn't know where they were from. But I remember. And I remember thinking how many people are in those two buildings. I wasn't anywhere near there. I didn't even know anybody who was there. So, but it affected me still. And it still does today. And 17 years later, this country. Oh, somebody correct me. It was a B-25, not a B-17. In the Empire State Building. So, but 17 years later, we kind of seem to have forgotten a lot of that day and forgotten the lessons that we should have learned out of that. So, anybody else want to share?
I'll never forget. I know exactly where I was. I know exactly what I was doing. And within 30 seconds after I saw the footage, I was on the phone to my unit. I'm ready. I wound up in Saudi Arabia because of that. On a deployment, military deployment.
I was at Fort Eustis, Virginia, at advanced individual training for the Army to be a Black Hawk helicopter mechanic, and I was 18 years old. And I can, if you put a GE T700 engine in front of me right here now off of Black Hawk, I can point to the nut I was taking off that engine when I found out. I mean, I've talked to World War II veterans who've mentioned that, like, that moment when they heard about Pearl Harbor is just firmly crystallized in their mind, and they'll never forget what they were doing, what they were thinking. And I completely understand, because like that moment in time is simultaneously surreal and amazingly clear at the same time. Because when we were in the work bay and we were at school to learn to do this job, we heard that a plane hit the World Trade Center, and that's all we heard at first. So, I mean, we were thinking, like, a little Cessna or private plane, some knucklehead wasn't paying attention in controlled airspace and hit the tower. And it wasn't until one of our instructors came out on the shop floor and said, "Lock up your toolboxes and come over here." And we didn't know what was going on. And then we were walking in when he told us that it was a 737 that had hit the World Trade Center. And then right after that was when the other one got hit. And at that moment, we all knew what had happened. I mean, nobody had to spread out the tea leaves and tell us this was a terrorist attack.
Mhm.
And we all, I mean, and like I said, being a bunch of 18, 19-year-old kids at an army base, and all of us being recently enlisted, we all knew we were going to be in this fight one way or the other. So it wasn't until 2003 that I got my mobilization orders, but still, it was something I don't think I'll ever be able to forget.
So,
Jason, excuse me, Mike. I'm sorry. Jason, where were you the day the world stopped turning?
I was out of the military, working for the same company I'm working for now, and I saw the first hit as I was walking out the door.
And?
Excuse me.
Sorry, Jason.
Uh-huh. Heard about the second hit. I'm sorry. It's tough. It's
No problem.
tough for me to talk about. I'll just mute myself for a minute. Thank you.
How about you, Phil? Oh, excuse me, Travis. How about you? Where were you the day the world stopped turning? Okay. Well, I guess. Mike, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I think Travis is frozen.
yeah, I think he froze again.
Okay. Sorry, Jason. Truly. No problem, brother.
It's it definitely affects everybody differently, especially if you had people that you knew that were anywhere involved. So I do have some friends that had people on the planes, and they still won't talk about it. So thanks, Jason, for saying something. But right now, just want to have a moment of silence in memory of all of those who lost their lives that day. And all of the brave men and women that have lost their lives since then in avenging that. Okay.
I'll say this. I'm still ready to play.
Yep.
I'm 65 years old. And I'd do it all over again.
Okay. So Roger posted, enjoy listening to the show. I listen at work after the bosses go home. Please remember, some of us work second shift and can't watch live. Roger, we appreciate that you do tune into the podcast. We appreciate we know not everybody can tune in live. So
We just wanted to give you a big shout out, Roger. Are you going to do item 2, Mike? Because that was item 3.
Yep.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Any way you want to, brother. Any way you want to.
Yep. All right. So Robert question: whose load data to use for load development? Bullet manufacturer, powder manufacturer, other reloading manual. It seems like Hodgson's data is always much higher than the bullet manufacturers. Is it and then his other question, I think we're going to hold off on because that requires and deserves a lot more discussion than we can really give it. So load data. I don't use any one specific source. I think if you do use only one source, you're severely handicapping your load development, and you're gonna miss a load that could work better in your firearm. That's my personal opinion. Does not reflect the views of blah 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 or blah blah blah. So, what say the rest of the gang?
I'll intone the same advice I gave when I answered this question. This question on Facebook. There's no such thing as too much load data. I mean, I know sometimes that can be confusing when you have multiple sources all listing different minimum and maximum loads and different overall lengths. But my way of looking at it is, if you get 4 or 5 different sets of load data, you can figure out where. I mean, it's not as I've never seen 2 sets of load data where one person's minimum is another person's maximum. You know what I'm saying? They're all going to describe some overlapping ranges, and you ought to be able to make an intelligent decision about where in there is a good place to play. I will say that the standard advice of start low and work your way up always applies. And I'll tell you from personal experience, I've shot some of the minimum loads out of like my Hornady 9th edition, out of my 308 Winchester, and they were so slow. I mean, they patterned like a shotgun at 100 yards. And I've shot some minimum loads from like my Spear book out of a 9mm that are stomping fast. So I don't think there's any really good way to tell if the minimum is going to be fast enough or work well in your firearm. The only thing I can say is get multiple source data and compare them all. There's no such thing as too much information.
Yeah. We say it all the time, and there's a reason we say it all the time. Start low, work up. Watch for pressure signs. It's just the bottom line. Yeah, the Mark's in the chat said they're talking about this in the chat too. The one that just popped up was Mark Hookham saying when he uses the Hornady manual. He's used versions of it for 30 years, and it's most of the same powders, and it's conservative. So he kind of, and the advantage of doing that, he said, is definitely you have base knowledge. You kind of know, you get to know the powders, and you get to know kind of what you're looking at when you're going to start a new load, because you have a lot of experience on where each of these are at with the different calibers. So, but yeah, Mark said he doesn't always start at the bottom, but he has a real good idea where to start. So, and that's Tin Man just brought up a good point in the chat. He says, start low. He says, eventually you shoot enough, you'll find a gun that doesn't like anything but low loads. And, that's kind of one of those things that you have to, the more you do this, the more different loads you work up, the more you learn. But it's still need to kind of keep an eye on it, and you're still going to learn. So, yeah. And, the more you learn, you kind of, you'll let a lot of 308. You kind of, especially if you're using the same powder for different bullet weights, you kind of got an idea of what range in that charge weight is going to be where you need to start. You may not necessarily need to start at the bottom, because you may know that 10% off, or 5% off the bottom load is the sweet spot. So you're going to start maybe, 2% above the min, that type of thing. And that's what Mark's kind of saying, is he doesn't necessarily start always at the bottom. So, but sometimes, it depends on what type of firearm you're using: handgun, rifle, shotgun, semi-auto, revolver, bolt action, single shot, whatever. There's a whole different thing that causes all sorts of different options that you may need to take into. You may have a semi-auto that for whatever reason won't cycle with that low load, so you have to go higher. So there's lots of different things to play, but get data. You definitely cannot have too much data. So, yeah, Hornady is definitely on the conservative side. So, what you're trying to do.
One point that I approach the learning, the gaining of knowledge. One of my points of view is the more I learn how much I don't know.
Yep. And that's actually the key to this game, is knowing what you don't know.
Sometimes there's so much lack of knowledge out there, it's almost discouraging in a way. It is definitely intimidating. Even from my point of view, yeah, I could throw together a good 308 load, but that's a good load, not that one hole at 200 yards
right
kind of load. This is a good load where you might sprinkle 5 shots in 1.25 inches, which is not too shabby. But we're talking about trying to get it under 0.1 MOA.
Right. And also some of this depends on what you're looking for. If you're Travis and you're just loading up for 3-gun, you don't need 0.1 MOA accuracy. You need minute of steel. So, like we like to say, in the Midwest, you need minute of deer. Well, he just needs minute of steel or minute of target. He doesn't need, He doesn't need to have every single one in the X-ring. He just needs to hit the target for the most part. Or, depending on your competition. I don't know which style 3-gun he's shooting, if it's just simply hitting the target is good enough, or if there's some, accuracy involved and stuff too. There's different variants of 3-gun because, people get bored with just hitting the target. No, now you got to hit it in the bullseye. So spend a lot of time and effort learning. That's kind of the key. Is play around, try around. Most of the manufacturers have load data online. All the powder manufacturers do. Most of the bullet manufacturers do. The reloading companies are where you're going to wind up, buying the books for the most part. But there are a couple of bullet companies that don't have load data online because they want you to buy the books. And yes, the bullet companies tailor the data for their bullet. But,
there's nothing wrong with that, Mike. You know that as well as I do. And I know we agree with that too. It's good business.
Right. And just because they say it's for their particular style bullet doesn't mean it doesn't apply to every other bullet with that same grain weight and that same bullet construction. 165 grain Spitzer boat tail is 165 grain Spitzer boat tail.
Careful.
Now, you may run into slightly different bearing surface because of slightly different design, but for the most part,
it's like saying a brick is a brick.
a brick is a brick. It's still going to hurt when it hits you in the head.
Anyway, just making trouble.
I know you are. So, but what Jim's point is, and I kind of briefly covered it. Just because it's 165 grain Spitzer boat tail doesn't mean that they're literally exactly the same. One company may run a bigger boat tail than another. One may run a sharper angle going to the nose. And when you change stuff like that, it changes the bearing surface, the actual side of the bullet that's actually touching the rifling. So, when you get into higher pressure loads, it can make a difference, especially if you're running towards that max and you're trying to push to the limit. More bearing surface equals more pressure or friction. So, because the bullet's not moving as easily.
Also worth pointing out, pay attention to the actual length of the bullet itself.
Correct.
Because in three-way Winchester with 168 grains, when I swapped from Hornady AMAX to Sierra Match Kings, there's a very noticeable difference in the actual length of the bullet, which means loading to the same overall length so I can stay in my magazine. I now have a lot more bullet down in the case, which did actually increase the powder charge I could throw in before I start hitting pressure signs. But if you went the other direction from a shorter bullet to a longer one and you load the same overall length, your powder charge is probably going to decrease. Just, it's something to bear in mind. Not all 168 grain bullets are born equal.
Right. Not only will your powder charge maybe decrease, but your pressure will increase because now you got more of that bullet taking up more of that combustion chamber. So,
I think we lost Travis again.
he keeps having issues, so he's popping in and out.
I see.
He's trying to get his computer to play nice.
Let's talk crap about him while he's gone.
Oh, he's back now, so we can talk even more crap.
Oh, okay.
He's from Idaho. So does that mean he's the hoe?
He is.
Idaho.
Idaho. Idaho.
Well, if I can get my stupid computer to act right, I'd want to talk about our.
There he goes.
Ding!
Mike, you need to use that swatter on Travis to bump him off the air.
It's not funny, but it is pretty funny.
They're done that.
Yeah. I've seen a time when Mike got kicked off totally because his ISP went down.
Yeah, my ISP went, no, I'm not going to play with you. Nice.
Anyway.
There we go.
You want to do another question, Mike? While Travis is trying to put things back together?
Well,
Travis, you going to stay with us this time?
I'm not doing anything, Jim. I have no control over this. If y'all got any tips for me, tell me, because it just keeps freezing every couple
Don't
seconds.
shoot the computer.
Look, draw a ring of salt around the computer to exercise the demons. It can't hurt.
Travis, does that computer stay on all the time?
No,
Okay. And is it Wi-Fi or is it corded?
it's Wi-Fi. That's probably the reason.
Yeah, that's going to be a big reason.
If you put, Mike taught me something with this Wi-Fi. I've been using Wi-Fi for years. I've never had broadband with a Cat5 cable. Travis, go get yourself some Cat5 cable. Buy what you need. I only needed 75 foot, but Mike made sure I've got 100 feet of cable, and that's why I got the better connection. Try that, Travis. It's a Cat5 cable. You'll know what I'm talking about, I think.
Travis, we can talk off the air. I got a couple ideas for you. So
Yeah, I try. It's not podcast related. Sorry, Mike.
well, it is, but it isn't. So, but I've got a few ideas, and it's definitely more in depth. So, kind of quick refresher. By the time everybody hears this, unless you're with us live or watch it between now and the 14th at 6 p.m. Central, it'll be a moot point. So Friday at 6 p.m. Central, we will draw a name for the items that Travis talked about last week. We would have Travis talk about them right now, but unfortunately, Travis' computer is going, so it's not working too well. But he talked about a couple of different products from Entirely Crimson. He talked about the lovely little tool, which replaces these pains in the arse. See those Allen screws?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it replaces those.
I hate them.
Yeah, I got to get around to ordering that. See? Bye, Travis. Hi, Travis. In and out, in and out. It was like my dog through the doggy door. In and out, in and out, in and out. Anyway.
Like a cheerleader with the pom-poms, Mike.
In and out, in and out, in and out.
Careful with that finger.
What finger? I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't do nothing.
Go ahead. Anyway,
So,
continue, please.
And he had a couple other things that he is giving away. So, or that we're giving away. Travis did a heck of a job, and I applaud him. Did a lot of legwork talking to different vendors about getting us some products to give away. And so what we're doing is you're sending, and this goes for everybody that listens now, because we're going to continue to give stuff away. So what you need to do is send an email to reloadingpodcast@gmail.com. That's reloadingpodcast, all one word, @gmail.com. In the memo line or title line or whatever you want to call it, you need to say giveaway. Say who you are and what your presses you have, because we've got products coming for different presses. And we're not going to put you in the drawing if you have a lead loadmaster and we're giving away stuff for Dylan. Just like we're not going to put you in the drawing if you have Dylan and we're giving away stuff for a lead loadmaster. So we want this to be products that you will actually be able to use. So that's why it's important to get your presses in there. And we will have stuff for single stage too. So it's not just progressives. But yeah, keep those emails coming. We keep getting them. And this is going to be an ongoing thing till all the stuff's gone. And the way Travis is just rolling, I don't know if we'll ever run out of stuff, because Travis is just doing an awesome job on that. So this is in addition to him working half days. You know, he's only working, 12-hour days, so he's working half days. And he's still running BuckeyeTargets.com. So, plus, there's that family thing he's got too. So I can't say thank you enough for that. So on that note, I want to thank everybody again who sends in emails, letters. I'm not giving you my address because I'm not going to get people sending me snail mail. I don't want snail mail. Send me an email. Or call me. You don't want to send an email to reloadingpodcast@gmail.com. You can call us. 608-467-0308. You can leave us a voicemail, or you can send us a text. It's a beautiful thing. Anyway, also, what you can do is you can hit us up on various different social media platforms. Sorry, tracking mosquitoes still. We are on Facebook. We are on MeWe somewhat. We're on Gun Groupie somewhat. We are on Instagram. I am personally on Twitter, but we do not have a podcast social media presence on Twitter. So, there's all sorts of different ones out there. Everybody's always trying to work on better ones. If you know there's a gun-friendly one, try and give them some help. Give them some different options. So that's kind of the thing with that. Also, want to take some time to thank everybody who visits Brownells and visits all of the lovely people that have given stuff to the show, products that have come and talked on the show. But we want to thank the people who visit Brownells and Amazon, but stop by firearmsradio.tv first and hit up the links, the affiliate links, so that we can help the network. Sorry, I had a brain fart. Holy crap, I'm getting Jim's part-timers. Son of a... I'm not even that old. Dang it. Anyway. So, and then there's, the people who are the Patreons that send us their money so we can get products and we can improve the quality of the show, which we've really worked hard at doing and are continuing to do, and trying to get things even better. So just continue to thank everybody who pours into this show, whether it's the hosts or Mark, who does all the editing for us and all that, and just appreciate everybody that sends in questions to get answered. Everybody that interacts on social media with us. We're grateful. So, and on that note, anybody got any shout outs? Jim shouting out to Face Scratcher.
Don't forget Mike Kicker.
Uh-huh. And on that note, keep your brass shiny.
And keep your powder dry.
Buy it cheap and stack it deep.
Squeeze. Don't yank that trigger.
Thanks, everyone.